Hello and welcome to another bearing investigation video featuring Boca bearings. Now today's engine is a very beautiful and fine example of an Austrian-made engine, but I do not really know what the timeline is for when this engine came out. It could be the early to mid 80s, but I'm not entirely sure because I can't find a whole lot of documentation on it. But it is from Hurtenberger or HP, and it is the Gold Cup 20 RC engine. Now this engine is just absolutely spectacular in appearance and is an excellent runner. But this one needs a new set of bearings, and this is another instance where there is not a listing on Boca's website for this particular HP 20 Gold Cup engine. They have a listing for the 61 Gold Cup, but not the 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble this engine, and we're going to figure out what size bearings go in this engine so that we can update Boca's website, and then I can get a set of them so I can replace them in this engine. So here is the engine in question today, or the subject of today's video. It is beautiful. Now, I believe that Hurtenberger calls this exterior coating, it's not painting, I believe they call it a thermix coating. And it's not really black as it might appear, it's really kind of like a dark brown. But this engine is just beautiful. Only features 4 head screws, no cut-in cooling fins. It's a nice engine. I've got the carb off for other reasons, and I said that it's in need of bearings, where in reality I don't believe it is. What's in need of is Boca's website is in need of updating so that I can get a new set of bearings for this. So first what I'm going to do is turn off the camera, take the head off, crankshaft, sleeve, piston out, and then we'll just go to the basic crankcase, and we will remove these bearings and investigate what size really goes in them. Okay, so here I am. I've got this engine, those few components taken apart, and for the life of me, you know, a very good friend of mine, really generous man, Jim, had given me this engine, and I didn't really know much about the history of it, but to me it looks like this engine was almost new. Let me show you the bottom of the head. I mean, there's really not even any carbon deposits under there, and here's what the top of the piston looks like. It's got a little darkness on it, but so Jim may have run this once, and I think I've run this once or twice, but other than that, this engine looks brand new. So let's go ahead and pop these bearings out and see what size they are so that we can get Boca's website updated. Now, it's not still hot, but I'm probably going to warm it up a bit here. As you can see, as I was heating it up, this front bearing is a rubber sealed bearing. And that's all it took to get that out. So here's our crankshaft. It came out, and it looks like that rear bearing stayed in there, which is going to mean I'm going to need to grab a different tool from my Boca's miniature bearing removal set to get that out, which I do not have on hand, but I will go get it here. This case is rather warm. Let me just get this. Get that front bearing out real quick, and let me pause the video and go and get my other tool that I can extract that rear bearing with. Okay, I'm back. I've got the chuck from the Boca bearing miniature bearing removal set that I need. Now this is expandable jaws that I just need to get inside here, insert into the inner race, and find that gap between, that very small gap between the bearing and the crankcase. I think I'm on it there. Just need to expand these jaws. And It's one of those things where you kind of need to, my flashlight is not in here. You need to shine a light in there to make sure. I might have to go grab my flashlight. I need to be able to shine a light in here the best I can to see if I can identify. It looks like I need to pull this thing back a bit, because ideally when it's on there it should rotate. So it looks like I'm in there a bit too far. Like, that's why I like rotate it all the way off now. So it feels really good right there. I can just kind of let it hang. Let's see, it's not wanting to be centered. So I kind of just do it incrementally. Okay, now I should be on it. So now put a little bit more tension on it, because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to tap this thing out. Yeah. I have to tap it out because these are normally, designed to just extract like this with a handle that comes with the kit. But obviously in an instance where a bearing is press fit like that, that doesn't really work. Yeah, it looks like it's on there pretty good. Yeah, I really wish I could get an interior picture and show you exactly what that looks like, but I just don't have the capabilities to get a picture quite like that. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to be using find an appropriately sized punch, and I'm actually be punching on the tip or the face of that jaw to extract this bearing. So I'm going to have to heat this up again to make that a little bit easier to come out. See if that's enough. Feels pretty darn warm. And there you go. I'll let that cool. And there's our bearing. Move my glove out of the way. So now I can just release this needle chuck, or the expansion rod, and pull that bearing out. Well, that bearing feels really, really nice. Okay, so here we are with these bearings that I'm going to measure and get the right numbers for, so we can create a kit for this. So let me get my calipers on here, and they're zeroed. Let's just start with the front one, because the front one, since it's a rubber sealed one, you can actually read it. And then this one actually says, I'd have to have my magnifier on yet again in the light. I did that after or before I turned the camera on. It says it's a 607. So it's reading basically a 7mm ID. So we go, let's just write down 7 by 19, 7 by 19 by 6. 7 by 19 by 6. I'll have to consult with Boca's engineering guide and see if that is actually a 706, which would be a 706 rubber sealed bearing. Relatively common. It's just you need to know. So again, we can just take a measure of the crankshaft too. 7. So 6.987. Alright, so this rear bearing looks pretty standard to me, but again, I don't know off the top of my head what it is. So let's just look here. It's looking like it's reading about an 11.96. If it's in a metric one, we'd call that a 12. So the main portion of the crankshaft is 11.9798. So we're going to say that's a 12mm. by 12 by 24. Let me write this down real quick. 12 by 24 by what? 6. 12 by 24 by 6. So these are both the same thickness. So those translate into, so what we've got here is the front bearing is correct as far as what was read on there. It is a 607, so in Boca's nomenclature it would be an MR607-RS, because I would get a rubber seal bearing for that and then just take one of the seals off the rear. This is an MR6901, which would be a ZZ because I would take the shields off. The ZZ is the metal shields. This has got a phenolic race that you can see here. So that's what we need to feed to Boca as far as the information for updating the website, is that the kit number for this HP20 Gold Cup engine would be, front bearing would be an MR607 and the rear would be an MR6901, whatever type of bearing shields you want, but I'm going to recommend what would be most common for an airplane engine. So there you go. That concludes our bearing investigation for this beautiful little HP 20 Gold Cup engine.